The time has come. 100 developers make a video game, but no communication between them is allowed. This is the biggest game development collaboration on YouTube. It's been a giant undertaking. It's taken us more than a year to finish, but we're finally here.
In the last 3 episodes, 75 developers made an absolutely chaotic, open-ended shooter game with gnomes, magic mushrooms, multiple levels, powers, and kamikaze goblins. What will the final 25 developers make, and will the game even be playable at the end? Let's find out, starting with developer number 76.
Hey guys, I'm Peter, a 15-year-old hobbyist game dev and content creator. My main concern, besides the thousands of warnings in the console, was the lack of explanation for these items that I seem to be picking up, which is what I decided to spend most of my time improving. Some needed balancing to make them more fun. Most of my issues came from the descriptions, which I got to calculate the items' combined effects and display that in colour. It's definitely not my proudest work, but having seen some of the other scripts, I think I could have done worse. I did have a few UI related complaints, but I don't really want to be the guy to redo everything for the 50th time, so I only made a few minor tweaks, most notably adding an indicator for the special abilities and fixing some placeholder art. If you liked my changes, be sure to come check out my main project Arbaneer.
So I'm back. I tried out the game and I can confirm there has indeed been 76 devs here that did not communicate because there are a lot of mechanics. We have a fire mechanic, a barrel mechanic, parry, tornado, grapple, buddy, another buddy, 2 more buddies, laser beam, f***ing Pope Francis, straight up just shitting. So obviously adding new mechanics would not help, instead I'll try make some of these more fleshed out. First thing I noticed is that the enemies don't differ at all. By that I mean we have a small guy that shoots, a medium guy that shoots, another medium guy that shoots, and a tall guy that shoots with a lot of health. After all, enemies are there to make the player switch up their tactics, so if they all do the same thing, the player's not gonna have much fun. I made the gargoyle guy a melee enemy who's super quick to prompt the player to use their dash. I then made Pope Francis have slow homing projectiles to make the player have to change up their movement, and an impenetrable shield forcing the player to push up and get really close to him. Which if you're a 13-year-old boy, that's definitely not something you should do. And the fights honestly feel so much better. Notice how the player has to constantly either push forward, pull back, or dodge, instead of just running backwards while shooting. And I don't have time to go in depth in everything that I changed, so buckle up. There's no reason to be able to do this with a parry, so I added a cooldown, I added coyote time to jumps, I added cracks to breakable doors, made mushrooms bigger for easier parkour, dashing into enemies now deals a little bit of damage, made enemies more accurate while standing still, made the mushroom jump be much higher than a regular jump. And the UI did say don't tweak, but since we can't communicate, I guess I'm allowed, so I made it a little bit smaller because there's absolutely no way an enemy should be allowed to hide behind my health bar. I also didn't really enjoy the boss battle, and it had these mushrooms on the ground, so naturally I was like, let's put lava there, and it's so much more fun now. I'm not a fan of these trees looking at the camera, so I made them an X shape instead. To all those 200 people whose life I just destroyed, I know, I'm a monster, the tree was clearly the best part of the game, and I ruined the game. Hashtag justice for the tree. I feel like I should finish this level so that the next dev doesn't have to worry about it, so I improved the set dressing everywhere, I made the castle look like a castle, made these medieval houses, and overall tried making the rooms look nicer. I specifically had a lot of fun on the part where I had to look through each pillar and remove the 4 other ones that were inside of it. I also worked on the boss arena a little, and I think it looks great, much better than that ice map. And then I found please create boss with, you guessed it, a hand, but God forbid I add another hand to the game, so I'll let someone else deal with that instead. Finally, I added Molly to the Hall of Heroes. And obviously, I had to remove these really ugly pixel art hands.
What's up, gamers? When I was playing through the game, I came across a pretty big issue. This door will always break no matter what. This door will only break once you've killed all the enemies in the area. And this door doesn't break, but sometimes it does. I spent many hours trying to solve this problem. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what's causing this. So, good luck to the next developer. Now that I've used most of my time failing to try and fix this bug, I need something to add to the game, and I don't really have that much time left. So, here's a fart button. I also decided to hide the code in a script called Rending Operational Index. Now, there might be a slight spelling mistake in that name, but the main point is, no one will ever find this fart button. I don't really know why I added this. It was just the first thing that came to mind, okay? I also went back and had another look at the door problem, and it turns out all I needed to do was add 1 word to this script, and now it's fixed. So I guess it really wasn't that complicated after all. And the last thing I did was add my beloved companion Hubert into the Hall of Heroes. And that's it from me.
Hey, I'm Brandon from Sasquatch B Studios. Now, this game is fun and it's packed with features, but it's also pretty broken. When I got to this parkour section in level 1, it crashed. Level 3, it crashed. play the tutorial, crash. If you die, crash. Pet the goblin, crash. And sometimes the new abilities would fly right through me and just glitch out. So I fixed as many of those game-breaking problems that I could find. Also, the enemies were really hard to see. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I had a lot of trouble seeing them. So I used a shader to help with that, and I actually went a little bit nuts. I changed brightness, contrast, saturation, I gave them distortion, thicker outlines, and in the process I fixed Aya's hit flash all the way back from the first video, because somewhere along the way it broke, and now the enemies are much easier to see in the game. Come check out my channel if you want to learn how to make games. That's all I got, bye.
Now guys, for a gift for this end of year, our massive game development program, Game Dev Rockets, is 40% off.
Here you will learn how to make your very own video games, from how to use the Unity game engine to coding in C#, drawing and animating, modeling, texturing and building levels. The whole course is project based, meaning you'll create dozens of different games while learning all these fundamental skills, from a tower defense and platformer to a horror game and online multiplayer FPS. It's the dream course we wished we had when starting, providing you with a clear roadmap, tutorials and challenges to go from ultra simplistic games to actually releasing larger projects on Steam. The link to the course is in the description. Without further ado, let's move on to the next developer.
I had no idea what to do. So first I updated all levels with more props, better lighting, fog and some other stuff. I also fixed some bugs like being able to almost one-shot the second boss. Now you actually have to fight it. I saw that level 4 scene, but it was quite empty, so I made some mountains and added some ruins. Oh, and inside the mountain there's now a hand boss, because well, someone really wanted one. Check out my games on itch.io.
When I first opened the project, I thought, this is definitely one of the games of all time. And in the final level, I found a giant floating hand boss, which looked like it needed some upgrades, as it only had one attack. So I gave it a punch and a slam attack, gave them some VFX, and wow, this feels way better now. I love getting slammed into the floor. I also prepped for a slap and a grab attack, but decided the arena needed more attention first. Since the game has a prominent crystal item, at least most of the time, I went with the geode crystal cave. I built the arena with 3 colored crystals, a lava floor with safe platforms, some pillars, and lava VFX. I think it all came together pretty nicely, and I'm excited to see what the next devs do. If you like my changes, make sure to check out my channel, EthanoCreates, where I'm making a co-op action adventure game set in Norse mythology.
Hey, I'm Joshua. So I only have a few hours to work on this game because of technical difficulties. And because I'm focusing on making the first demo for my grappling hook game, Cavescape. The gameplay was so confusing I didn't even try to make sense of it, especially not with my limited time. But there was one thing that really annoyed me, the explosion sound. So I just stole this explosion sound from my game and used it for this project. Then I found this model of a pig in the project folder, so I used it to make a huge pig monster that watches you for whatever reason. That's it from me, good luck to the next dev.
Hey everyone, I'm Skyline, and I'm probably one of the last devs to work on this project, so I decided to polish the level design a little, since I immediately had issues with the game. Now, I know it's kind of a speedrunning game, but some of these levels I could straight up speedrun to the boss without even fighting. So to fix our issue, or at least to slow down the player, I added models to block out some of the areas where the level could be exploited. I also added a couple new props, enemies, doors, and explosive barrels to spice up the gameplay. Now, level 2, 3, and 4 were pretty well made, so I moved on to the final level and it was kind of underwhelming. Kinda felt like a remesh of level 4, but with a castle vibe. I don't know, so I gave it a castle look. It doesn't look all too great, but honestly this is the best I could do with the little time I had. It at least makes the level look more full. Now, beyond the walls, I saw this hand and I immediately thought of Smash Bros. So I duplicated the boss and it was pretty fun, but I felt like I'd be the only one who would find this fun, so deleted. The boss room kinda felt small, so I enlarged it by 75%. Next, the crystals in the room looked kinda strange. All these colors looked out of place, and I wanted to give it another Doom Eternal Broforce type of look. So I turned all the colorful crystals red and put some of the red ruins in here. I also gave the boss the lava blast spell, and before leaving this project, wanted to add my
personal touch to some areas I thought could be improved. So I created this grass texture that I thought would be a better choice for the art style, and I made some flowers to add a bit more vegetation, even though they're supposed to be blue and purple. The final thing I made was this lava shader. I felt like the current one was a bit too stylized and thought this one looked neat. But anyway, I'm Skyline, I hope you liked my changes, and I'm currently working on an open world RPG. If you want to check out my progress, I'll probably comment something stupid below the video.
I'm Imphenzia, and I made Unfair Rampage Nightfall in 400 hours. I work alone, so when I opened this project, my head exploded. I tried the game for 30 minutes. DoTween had 300,000 tweens, and my head exploded again. I'll change the flow end for tweening instead to save the other devs. No, I should focus on something more creative. Fingers were missing on a hand, so I fixed the other sprite to match it. Then I drew a sprite sheet for a nuke, and I converted one of the gnomes to a tactical thermonuclear gnome. Google that for reference. Then I modeled, rigged, animated and implemented an enemy of my own. Low poly, of course. After that, I zipped up the project thinking, good luck next dev.
My name is The Naked Dev, and I think this project needs a new UI. Kidding, of course. No, I think it's about time this game gets a little bit of polish, maybe even some performance optimization. It's time to add some FSR3 upscaling to it. And you know what? I'll throw in some DLSS as well. These upscalers offer some of the best anti-aliasing available in the industry and can more than double the frame rate on performance settings. And now that they are in the project, all that is left to do is adding the graphic options so everyone can use whatever upscaler they want. Very nice, look at that. No more jagged edges, no more horrible aliasing, and improved performance. Want to know more about me, what I'm doing, or my upscalers? Check out my YouTube channel.
Hey friends, this is Jordan with O&Co Games. I'm working with my dev partners Noah and Ray on Tethergeist, a precision platformer inspired by the likes of Celeste, Hyper Light Drifter, and Studio Ghibli. Now, for Wizard Battle Arena, knowing that there will be 100 devs who will work on this, and knowing that I'm a bit of a novice in Unity, I wanted to offer something of value that better fits the skills I can bring to the table. So in true O&Co fashion, I decided to put the game through a round of our rigorous playtesting process. I recruited several people with varying levels of gaming experience who have never seen this game, and I conducted playtests using techniques from my career in user experience. The main thing I was looking for was to see if the game was intuitive, fun, and if it had any points of frustration that consistently popped up amongst players. I wasn't just looking for bugs, I was looking for issues related to the overall game feel and experience. I noted down all of the issues I found in a Google Sheet, including how many participants experienced each issue, what type of issue it was, the severity of the issue, how difficult or easy it would be to fix it. Any future dev could then sort or filter this list by severity or ease of implementation to prioritize which issues to focus on. I then included a link to this data in the project file. I also included a link to an unlisted playlist on YouTube of all of the raw recordings of the playtests I conducted. Thank you so much for including me, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Hey, I'm Jonas. I co-developed these wonderful games here, and I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about game design and stuff. I felt like the best approach was to just playtest the game for a little bit and just see what most hinders my enjoyment at the moment. First of all, there were some performance issues, and I immediately noticed one thing that I could do to help with that a little bit. The nav mesh was an absolute mess, and that is an understatement. There was a huge amount of geometry junk outside of the playable area, and a lot of the props were cutting very strange and unintentional looking holes into the nav mesh, especially noticeable with this big tree here. This is how it looked like after my quick cleanup. Not perfect, but definitely a lot more reasonable. The project was very difficult to work with. For example, the hierarchy was an absolute mess as well. There was an invisible game object called GameObject31 that had nothing but a fart sound attached to it. There are still a couple of developers after me, so I decided to take one for the team and clean up the hierarchy at least a little bit. We only have 3 main folders here. The level setup with all of the manager objects, the world, numbered level sections, and the WTF folder with stuff I didn't want to delete but have no clue what they do. For example, there was this UI toilet called Do Not Touch. I'm not sure if I'm the one who got pranked here. One thing I very desperately wanted to fix is how the camera kept moving while the spell selection wheel was open. Just to find out that the fix I was was looking for was already in the code, but commented out. Of course, I wonder why that was removed, but let's just put it back in for now. It did exactly what it was supposed to, which is very nice. I hope it didn't break anything. I wish something would break this door though, cause whatever I did, I could not get through this gate. Figured out that the splash damage of a bomb could get it to open, but that doesn't mean you can go through it. There was some sort of invisible wall blocking the way, and sure enough, I found it. It belonged to the enemy spawner system. My initial instinct was to just disable the invisible walls, to be honest, but then I realized that the second level had the exact same problem. Turns out the system was working as intended. The only thing that was missing was some feedback for why you cannot pass through, so I added a counter at the door. I mean, there are certainly more than 6 enemies remaining, but now at the very least you know what the invisible wall wants from you. The problem with the first level in particular is also that there's a section that prevents you from backtracking, so if you miss a couple of enemies, there's literally no way to open this door. I decided to quick fix this by adding an additional mushroom that allows you to jump back to the previous section. Unfortunately, I did not have the time to apply my fixes to all of the existing levels. I wish the next developer good luck, because they will need it, and hopefully I left this game a little better than I found it. While this game feels very broken in some ways, it also feels very special in a couple of different ways, so I was very happy I was able to be part of it. Cheers.
Upon opening it up to see what I was working with, I realized just how important communication is. In all seriousness, judging by the hodgepodge of mechanics and dumpster fire codebase, tons of devs have worked on this project, and they've done some really cool stuff. Firstly, I changed all of the comments or descriptionary text I could find in the project into the Wingdings font. I made the settings menu properly digest data, because the audio in the game is really loud and it's very annoying. I fixed the button in the tutorial so that it works with any throwable object. I made a projectile lifetime countdown. You could throw the goblin's bomb off the stage and then he would just never have the bomb ever again. Someone made these cool barrels. They weren't exploding for me, so I fixed that. Additionally, I made them growable with the lift spell. I changed this art for the Archmage, special crosshair for when you can grab objects, and my final 2 things, a small test dummy for the tutorial level, and a desperate attempt at balancing the game. It was wonderful being a part of the Blackthornprod game dev industrial complex. I'm Dogma Quest. You can find my videos at dogma.questlog. Peace.
I'm Ignis, and I'm a games on Steam. Check out my recent game, Graveyard Gunslingers. First off, I wanted to improve sound effects. I noticed there were no environmental ambience. I started with dungeon area. I went for dark, spooky theme, added water droplets, added a bit of echo, ghost sounds, and the whole thing felt really nice. Next, I added some ambience for the open green area, where you fight golems and wizards. I went for meadow/forest vibe, and I scattered audio sources throughout the other green areas, making first level feel much more alive. For the desert level, I combined wind, palm leaves, and sand blowing sound effects. And for the Pets Hall of Fame, I repeated dungeon sound. Well, because it looks like a dungeon. While I was chilling in the Hall of Fame, I decided to add my mom's cat, and he totally hates plants. Just the other day he was walking, smelled this plant, and was like, yuck, screw it, I'm gonna destroy this thing. Oh, and the last thing I did, I touched the Eternal Toilet. It was as epic as I heard.
Hey everyone, my name is BenBonk, and I'm an indie game developer and YouTuber who's been working on a top-down roguelike called Slime Heap for the past 4.5 years. When I opened up the project for the first time, I was pretty blown away by all the features and wasn't really sure what I could contribute, as I haven't done too much 3D game development. But I couldn't help feel that the movement was just so satisfying and felt like there needed to be some kind of secret parkour challenge. So instead of contributing anything actually meaningful to the game, I removed the collider from these bars here in the first level so the player could just jump out of bounds. Then I took some of these bouncy mushrooms from around the map and started to design my ultimate parkour course. See, I didn't want to make this your average parkour course, I wanted to make it incredibly difficult for really just my own amusement. So a few hours later, and boom, the course was done. So yeah, I basically just ended up making a mini rage game because I felt like it. I think you can kind of cheese it by spamming your abilities, but whatever, it's still super hard for genuinely no reason, and I had fun making it, so thanks for having me on.
First thing I wanted to do was completely change the UI system. I'm kidding. When Blackthornprod scraped me from the bottom of the barrel for this video, I immediately quashed any urge to meme or put my stamp on the game. To be honest guys, it's doing enough. So I resolved to fix bugs and tweak variables and do all the stuff that makes for really boring content. Hi, I'm Beegs. In an effort to make this as painless as possible, I'm going to read all the stuff I did really fast. Ready? Fixed a bunch of Fixed a bunch of missing references, cleaned up a load of negatively scaled colliders, fixed several errors where tweens have tried to do things to destroyed objects, reduced health regen so players can actually die, made tooltips scale with distance, made item pickups work on key press so they don't swap a million times every time you press a key, and finally, made picking up objects a little bit more forgiving so you don't have to be pixel perfect every time you want to pick up a damn bomb.
Hello, I am Icoso, and I'm really cool. I'm kidding, of course, you just got pranked. The first thing I did was obviously add my cat to the Hall of Fame, and I decided to actually put 2 photos because he's just that cool. But only 2 pictures here didn't really capture his true essence, so I started replacing other people's pet photos until this entire scene just became a shrine to Shadow, and I truly think this has made a big improvement to how the game feels and the player's experience. But this whole project has been worked on by dozens of amazing developers and also Aria, and I don't want to overstep or make any huge changes because this game is already super fun. The whole aesthetic reminds me of a certain green elf man connected to puzzles and codes, and so I thought it would be really cool to add my own sort of little Easter egg / cryptic code side quest to the game. So I started by drawing some symbols and placing them around every stage and level, in corners and cracks and crevices and cauldrons and columns and cupboards and... So it's up to you when you play the game to work out what this means, and here's a little chart to help you out. I wish I had more time to actually add meaningful things to the game, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to Blackthornprod.
Hi, I'm Phil, aka Pixel Prophecy, and my passion is polish. I went into a lot of prefabs and fixed their shadow casting. I also tweaked the mushrooms to glow in the dark and to only use a single light and not 2. Hey, what's that banana doing up there? Who put it there anyway? Banana? I did the most sensible thing, and that was to put it in the spotlight. I wrote a helper that fades lights in or out when a player enters a trigger volume. I needed it for this effect of stepping into the bright daylight for the first time. Being a colorist first and a game dev second, I intended to give the game a cinematic AAA look. For that, I introduced a number of post-processing volumes, each with a distinctive look. I wonder if any of my looks survive, and I'm super curious what the next dev brings to this project.
What's up everyone? I'm Mike, I have a couple games on Steam, and I'm currently working on a World of Warcraft inspired game where you control multiple heroes. Loading this project up, I was overwhelmed by how big it's gotten, and I really wasn't sure what I could do to contribute with the limited time I had. That's when I found this witch, who had been disabled because of pathing issues. I figured I would try and fix it, so at least the efforts of the previous devs and whoever made this cool art wouldn't go to waste. Basically, I made it so the witch will constantly check its position, and if it travels out of bounds, it'll return back to its home position. Hopefully this keeps the witch in bounds. After that, I just spent my time fixing some smaller issues, like the UI not appearing over items on certain levels. I then discovered an even bigger bug with looting items on level 2. However, I was running out of time and I really didn't want to open this can of worms. Hopefully the last few devs are able to iron that one out. Thanks for having me and good luck to the next dev.
Hello everyone, my name is Saul of Games By Saul. I can do some work on the tutorial because when I played there were some bits that I really missed and didn't understand. I wanted to show off 2 other mechanics in the game which I didn't think were properly introduced, and one was these explosive barrels. They can heal, deal damage, and deal double damage. And the other one was parrying. So you can parry attacks, which the game does explain that it restores mana, but it didn't really show it off, which I didn't think was a very good idea, because I think it's such a cool thing to be able to blast spells back and return them to sender. I wanted to add a new spell in, a new enemy type, like a Weeping Angel type of thing, but I just did not have the time. When he fires again, you can parry, and unfortunately I couldn't get the parry to work how I wanted it to. As you can see, the barrels explode, and then they come back. If you do this, you can see it heals him, which I think is super nice to show off. Thanks and bye.
Hey, I'm George and we're a small company called Uraga. We were surprised by how crazy, insane this game is with so many features. This game has got so many dungeons, and what kind of dungeon can be called a dungeon when it doesn't have any traps? So we created and scattered bear traps around the levels, which adds more danger to the overall experience and forces players to be a little more cautious. Traps, right? Oh, and we're working on a simulation game. It is called Tattoo Removal Simulator. Check it out on Steam. If you like it, wishlist it because it will mean a lot to us. And thank you Blackthornprod for having us in this collaborative experiment. And good luck to other devs.
Hello friends, my name is Zach. Going into this, I knew I was going to need a bit of a light touch, since most of the core mechanics are already pretty established and the content is mostly complete. First off, I actually wondered if anyone outside the devs had playtested the game, so I went to make a build for playtesting. Oops. All build errors. After spending a full day in missing prefab hell and only showing errors after long build times hell, I finally had a build I could send to people. I chucked it into pretty good playtesting and sent out the link to my Discord server. Oh boy, I found a lot of issues. I had to remove the player's butthole. Look, I'm sorry, I know this is going to be controversial and I hope it doesn't break the entire game, but it had to be done. Every single playtester was super confused by the random crystals that would just appear, and it wasn't clear at all what they were doing or where they were coming from. I did keep the poop toggle though in the options menu because I just want to mess with players a little bit. Another big issue was that players found the game weirdly easy. Their health was going down, but would go back up straight away. It felt criminal that the big fireball and ice spell didn't have explosion damage, so I added that into it. I fixed some enemies having their head in their ass, meaning headshots always triggered, made the game auto-switch to new weapons after they're unlocked, grabbed a barrel model of Polypizza since it felt inconsistent with all the other throwables being 3D. Fixed this, fixed that, fixed a soft lock on the last room in level 1. I ran out of time to fix this properly, so I just removed the gate and added an invisible bingus that heals you before the boss. And that's it. I'm working on a competitor analysis website that summarizes Steam reviews and quickly shows you what players liked and disliked about a game. If you want to know when it's done, you can follow me on Blue Sky.
I have 3 changes in mind that people are gonna love. There's a really cool dragon that poops, so I decided to add a pee mechanic to complement the game. I love minimalist huts, so I decided to delete the entire UI system, including this 2D hand someone made. It doesn't really fit a 3D game, but Blackthorn said I can't really delete everything, so I reverted all my changes and spent about 10 hours fixing bugs. By the way, for the next 2 weeks, I'll be replying to every single comment in my YouTube channel.
Hey, I'm Kyle Banks, the creator of Farewell North, and let me tell you, when I opened this project, I was worried. It definitely feels like the kind of thing that 100 people made without communicating. There's like a dozen half-baked mechanics and even more half-baked toilet jokes. But the more I played, the more I actually enjoyed it. There's just way too much going on. My first impulse was to start ripping things out, but I really don't want to ruin anyone else's hard work, so my goal is to finish this epic project by streamlining what's there as much as possible. I started by fixing as many bugs as I can find. I discovered a few to-dos along the way, but I'm gonna pretend I didn't see those. The biggest missed opportunity I see is that the grab spell is on the same hand as all the other spells. You have this pet goblin with his bombs, exploding barrels, and crystal poops to throw, but it's not powerful enough on its own, and it is far too clunky switching back and forth between that and your usual spells. So all those grab systems are completely wasted. We do have 2 hands, but the left hand is only for parrying, and honestly it's kinda janky. It barely works. I mean, what did I even parry here? So I'm sorry guys, but I had to make one cut. I scrapped the parrying mechanic in favor of using your left hand for the grab spell. I removed the mana cost so you can fling barrels and bombs with your left hand while firing away with your right, fix the barrels so they could actually explode consistently, and increase the speed that objects move to your hand so it's nice and snappy. Personally, I think this all just feels much more fun and powerful, like you're truly a wizard to be reckoned with. Between this, all the bug fixing, and dozens of smaller tweaks, I'm already running out of time. So to wrap things up, I'm sure all of us want our names attached to this beautiful project, so don't worry guys, I added a little credit screen, and of course I added my dogs to the Hall of Heroes to close it out.
We have Wizard Battle Arena. I can read now. Been taking lessons.
Impressive level here. This is looking really, really sweet. But I like that there's no more, like none of those icons and stuff. Like the power-ups there, I'm not sure where they are.
I loaded the game up, and the first thing I did was go into the settings. First thing I noticed was the SFX slider didn't work at all, so we were off to a great start. But then I looked to the side and saw the poop select. So I was like, okay, let's untick that, because that is going to be great. We get rid of the poop, amazing. And I log in and see there's a P button instead. So I go back into the menu, like, is there an anti-P button? No, here we are.
No. Minions.
I'm pretty sure that was Thomas Brush doing the sound effects, but I think it's like he must have like a similar vocal range to me. I feel like that could be me. You ready? Ha! Ha! All right, man. Ha! Feels like there's a lot of ideas that are sort of thrown in and not fully fleshed out. At the beginning of the game, there's just so much thrown at you. I mean, you get like a pet, you have a bunch of different spells, you can pick up items, you can equip items. I think it could really benefit from really dragging that stuff out and like teaching the player how to use one thing and then building on that.
Oh, I can throw the knife.
some light. Or you know what? You have some crystal. Oh my. That is like an instant kill. What is happening? Is that me? No, that's not me.
With it being so many developers involved in the project and you getting such a limited time to work on it, you kind of feel like you have to do something to make what you've done stand out from what the other devs have done. And generally that'll just mean adding some kind of new feature, whether it's a new ability or a new item or something like that, rather than spending your time optimizing the game and making it actually good.
Oh. Hello.
But that creates its own extra problem, which is mechanics completely overlapping. Finding throwable rocks and like explosive barrels here and there is pretty cool, but it's kind of useless when you're also given a goblin following you that literally always has a throwable explosive to begin with, right? There's also having both upgradable gear and risk a rain style item system, which, you know, no need to have both of those either, especially if they look very similar, but their pickups are very different and stuff like that.
So that's so weird. Like, I automatically pick those things up, but I don't pick these things up. But they look the same.
I am not a huge fan of some of these sprites. I mean, some of them feel a little out of place in the world, and maybe like glowing orbs and stuff would have been cooler.
The performance was actually quite terrible on my machine. I think that I had like 15 frames per second most of the time.
With the art style, my original intention was to have this 2D hand, which isn't really drawn all that well. It's just got no anti-aliasing, which is a cheat code to make it look like it's an interesting art style. And I'm a big fan of using mixed media, and mixed media being, you know, art that combines more than one art medium. It's just that it becomes super inconsistent. There are so many enemies in the game, and one of them is 3D, while the rest is 2D. You know, the bosses became 3D, which could be cool. It could be like the art itself telling you that this is a special guy. He's got an extra dimension to him, right? But then there's also a boss that's 2D. You have two companions, and even those have different dimensions, right? It does look really good overall, I'd say. There are just definitely moments where I'm like, oh, I wish that was a little different.
I was dev 27. I made these little bouncy mushrooms that were 3D at like 50 or 70, and they made them 2D. And then I just played it again today, and somebody went in and made it 3D again. So there's three of us working on the same
mushroom system.
Yeah.
Hall of Heroes was actually quite a meme. Me and my team, we kind of took it as a joke and wanted to add something like that, but I never thought that it's going to grow into something that's implemented in the final game. I think someone even added like their child photo, which was just funny to see actually.
If you were forced to work on this game for like a year, what would be the first things you would do to make this project really good?
I would probably remove a bunch of stuff.
I see an interesting vision of like a cool boomer shooter in this style. It just needs like a good game director to step back in.
Though I will say these last 25 devs did an insane job at fixing many other aspects of the game. Having played the previous version, this one was a huge step up for sure.
Like a weird, chaotic piece of art. Thanks so much for watching. 2025 is going to be an absolutely crazy year, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future awesome collaborations.
And remember guys, that our premium game development course, Game Dev Rockets, is 40% off for this end of year sale event. So if you want 2025 to be the year that you actually start making and releasing your own video games, then check out the link in description. Alright guys, Happy New Year. Cheers.